know if you can believe it, but the boss, Bruce Springsteen, is turning 75 years old this year. I can't believe it. Now, to commemorate this milestone, there's a new book that's a retrospective of his life called Bruce Springsteen at 75. And the author of the book is a Seattleite, and she is here with me now, Gillian Gaar. Welcome to New Day. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's great fun being here.
So, how did you come by compiling this book? This is amazing, by the way. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, the design team, I can't take credit for that. They did such a good job. But I'd done a similar book for the publisher before. They started this new series, Such and Such, at 75. So I did one on Elton John.
Oh my
They
goodness.
said, you do Elton John. So that came out a few years ago. So then the editor says, how about doing Springsteen? And I'd done a more general overview bio for them some years before, so it just seemed natural.
I understand that Bruce was on the cover of both Time and Newsweek in the same week. And it's interesting because it's unprecedented, really. I don't know anyone else who've had that feat, and it's impressive. So the week that these magazines came out, he also, I understand, made his debut at the Paramount in Seattle.
Oh, was it that week? Yeah, I know he was in LA when the issues came out. I mean, he was kind of flummoxed by that himself. He said, what am I, the president? That's who you expect to be on there. But his manager just kind of strong-armed both of the magazines to agree. He got one to agree, and then he told the other one, well, they're doing it, and you're going to put them on the cover anyway. Why not this week?
Wow, it's interesting, because you would think most magazines would be like, no, we're not going to do the same thing because they're competing, but, you know, it's really fascinating. Because the Night, I have to ask about this, Patti Smith's big hit, written by Bruce. It's one of my actually favorite songs. Let's talk about that song and how that came about.
Well, I liked it too, and for quite some time, I didn't even know it started as a Bruce song.
Yeah.
But it did in one of the many songs. You know, he has so many songs he writes for his albums that don't get done. So he had this leftover song, and Jimmy Iovine was working on both Bruce's record and Patti Smith's. And he brought the song to Patti. And at first she wasn't interested because she wanted to do her own stuff.
Right.
But then finally she was waiting, and kind of all fits in with even the theme of the song. She was waiting for a phone call from her boyfriend, future husband, Fred Smith. And while waiting, she starts listening to the demo, and she realized this song isn't finished because Bruce only had a verse or so.
Right.
The lyrics weren't complete at all. So she thought, so I can contribute to this, and it will be like my own song. Or not my own song, but, you know, a song she wrote.
Oh, that's great.
So she did, and yeah, even the waiting for the phone call, and that kind of ties in with the romantic aspect of the song. And it became her only hit single, really.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even really think about it, but it's a great song. And I also had no idea that it was written, or at least partially written by Bruce.
Yeah.
The release of the live box set, let's talk about that. It's 1.5 million orders, an example of the excitement about the physical releases back in those days. I mean, I remember when these box sets would release, I mean, it was a big deal. And for this one specifically, crowds were lining up before midnight.
Well, that's it. You know, especially younger people, they don't realize the frenzy that would almost surround these releases.
Right.
And because 12:01 would technically be the start of the new day, record stores, like I think here, Tower was doing it on that night. You know, fans would be lining up from 10 o'clock on so that at midnight on release day, the doors could open and people could just come in and buy the box set.
Because back in the day, you couldn't download the music. You had to go buy the music and put it in your music player.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I even forget that sometimes too. I'm like, why was that so? Oh, because you had to go buy the actual physical CD or tape. It's amazing. And there's a lot of history in this book as well that I think is interesting. Let's talk about the concert in East Berlin. I mean, it had a real influence on the reunification, did it not?
It did, and that was one thing that surprised me because I hadn't known that. But it seemed, you know, this seems like a landmark gig, let's put it in. And then the more I read about it, and there was actually East Berliner that wrote about it, you know, wrote a book about the whole thing, about how the East German government wanted to reach out to the young people,
right, and get
keep
in
them from
there
being so restless and all. But they didn't want Bruce to play near the wall because they thought they don't want all these people congregating by the wall. So Bruce arrives, and first on the ticket it looks like it's a benefit for Nicaragua. And he's going, I didn't sign up for this, and now all the people are there, just go ahead and do it. And so then he made a statement about how he hoped someday there would be no barriers.
Yeah.
And that was considered really controversial. I think he was going to say wall at first, but they were like, no, you cannot use the word wall. So he said barriers, but people writing about it later, they said they knew what he was referring to. And it sort of seemed to kickstart this groundswell of support that, about a year or two later, the wall comes down.
Right. Wow, it's so important, the powerful impact that someone who's a rock star can make on society as a whole. He also was, beloved by our nation. As a matter of fact, he played the Super Bowl halftime show in 2009, right?
Yeah. That was I don't know, I think that's one of the best Super Bowl performances,
agree. And Prince and Springsteen were two of my favorites. When he was singing Purple Rain with Prince and it was raining, and then Springsteen when it was just like, it felt like everything Americana, football, music, everything.
Yeah, well, he hadn't wanted to do it. They'd been asking him for years, but he just thought, I cannot condense my show to 12 minutes. Which, that's a reasonable thing to say when your shows run 3+ hours.
Right.
But the year before, Tom Petty had been the guest, the musical guest. And Springsteen's manager, John Landau, watches that and says to him, that could have been you.
Yep. See, there you have it.
So they decided, okay. And I thought it worked really well. I think they convey the excitement of the show
I think they did.
in that time.
And this book, by the way, talking about conveying the excitement, it's beautiful. There's all these flip outs, there's posters.
Extras.
It's just got so many wonderful things. Thank you so much for chronicling the life of a true American rock star. It has been a pleasure chatting with you.
Well, thank you.